The glass walls of Meridian Engineering Solutions were more than just an office. For 10 years, they had been my second home. I'd walked through those doors every day with a clear sense of purpose, believing I was building something that truly mattered. On that fateful Tuesday morning, however, everything was about to change. As I sipped my usual dark roast coffee and went over the Yamamoto Industries presentation for what felt like the 100th time, I had no idea I was about to architect my own resurrection. My assistant, Chloe, gave a soft knock on my office door. "Sarah, Mr. Rothwell wants to see you in his office," he said now. Marcus Rothwell. He was only 6 months into his tenure as CEO, yet he'd already managed to alienate half the senior staff with his unique brand of arrogance, all wrapped up in an expensive Armani suit. I saved my work and started for the executive floor, my heels clicking against the polished marble with a rhythm I had perfected over the last decade. His office was a shrine to his own ego. It featured floor-to-ceiling windows with a sprawling city view, a desk that cost more than a mid-sized sedan, and walls adorned with photos of him shaking hands with people far more influential than he would ever be. He didn't bother to look up when I came in. "The Yamamoto meeting is this afternoon," he said, his eyes still glued to his phone. "I'll be leading it." "Of course. I've prepared a comprehensive briefing packet for you." Mr. Yamamoto was especially keen on discussing the modifications for the Osaka project. He finally lifted his head, his gray eyes as cold and empty as a winter sky. "I don't need your briefing materials. I've been in this business longer than you've been alive, sweetheart." I had to physically bite my tongue to keep from responding. Marcus was maybe 5 years older than me, and his so-called experience was mostly in leveraged buyouts and hostile takeovers. He had never built a single thing in his life, only acquired and dismantled. "With all due respect, Marcus, I've been managing this client relationship for 7 years. There are certain nuances." "Are you suggesting I can't handle a simple client meeting?" he interrupted, his voice sharp. "Not at all. I'm simply offering my expertise on the account." He stood up and walked around his massive desk to stand over me, a power play as transparent as his cheap spray tan. "Your expertise is noted, and it is no longer needed. You will sit in the meeting, you will take notes, and you will speak only when I directly ask you to. Is that clear?" I thought of the countless late nights, the weekends I'd sacrificed to build the relationship with Yamamoto Industries, the trust I had earned over years of delivering on promises and solving complex problems. "Crystal clear," I said, my voice betraying none of my inner turmoil. "Good. And Sarah? Wear something appropriate. Our Japanese friends appreciate a certain aesthetic." The comment was a thinly veiled insult, hanging in the air like a foul odor. I had been dressing professionally for my entire career without his guidance, but I just gave a slight nod and walked out. In the elevator, I sent a quick text to my husband, Brian. "Rough day ahead. Marcus is being Marcus." His reply came instantly. "Want me to slash his tires?" In spite of everything, a small smile touched my lips. "Maybe later." When I got back to my office, I saw an email from Mr. Yamamoto himself. "Sarah-san, I am very much looking forward to our discussion today. My team has great confidence in your proposed solutions." I stared at the words, a knot forming in my stomach, knowing that Marcus hadn't even bothered to read what those solutions were. The hours leading up to the meeting dragged on. I spent the time reaching out to my network, checking in with other key clients, and making sure my other projects were on track. It was just busy work, a way to keep my mind from dwelling on the impending train wreck. At 2 p.m., the delegation from Japan arrived. Mr. Yamamoto, a man of elegant dignity in his 70s, greeted me with a warm, familiar smile. His team of 5 senior engineers and executives followed his lead. Over the years, We had navigated market crashes, project delays, and even natural disasters together. They were more than just clients. They were true partners. "Sarah-san," Mr. Yamamoto said quietly as we made our way to the conference room, "I do hope Rothwell-san understands the critical importance of the Osaka modifications. The city council is proving to be quite particular." "I'm certain everything will be fully addressed," I replied, forcing a confident smile that I did not feel. Marcus was already in the conference room, his feet propped up on the table, barking at a junior staff member that the coffee wasn't hot enough. The stark contrast between his boorish behavior and the quiet, composed dignity of our guests was excruciatingly apparent. "Gentlemen," he boomed, not even bothering to stand or offer a customary bow. "Welcome to Meridian. Ready to make some money?" The members of the Japanese delegation exchanged subtle, uneasy glances. In all my 7 years of working with them, I had never seen them look so uncomfortable. Until today. The meeting began, and it was even worse than I had feared. Marcus hadn't just ignored my briefing materials. He seemed to be actively working from a completely outdated playbook. He quoted prices from 3 years ago, referenced a project manager who had left the company 2 years prior, and, in the most cringeworthy offense of all, he kept calling Mr. Yamamoto Yamato, like the World War II battleship. When Mr. Yamamoto politely tried to steer the conversation toward the specific load-bearing calculations for the Osaka site, Marcus waved his hand dismissively. "Don't you worry about the small stuff. We'll figure all that out after you sign on the dotted line." I couldn't let that stand. I had to speak. "Actually, we've already completed those calculations. If I could just pull up the—" "Did I ask you to speak?" Marcus's voice was a blade, cutting through the tense atmosphere of the room. The temperature seemed to drop 10 degrees. Mr. Yamamoto's expression, always so carefully controlled, flickered with an emotion I had rarely seen from him: undisguised anger. "Rothwell-san," he said, his voice slow and deliberate. "Sarah-san has been instrumental to our long and successful partnership. Her expertise is the primary reason we chose Meridian." Marcus's face flushed a deep red. "Well, she's instrumental in taking notes right now. Please continue." But Mr. Yamamoto did not continue. Instead, he turned his full attention to me. "Sarah-san, perhaps you could explain the modifications for us?" I looked at Marcus, whose face was now contorted in a mask of purple rage. Then I looked at Mr. Yamamoto, a man who had shown me nothing but honor and respect in our 7-year relationship. The choice was not difficult at all. "Of course, Yamamoto-san." I pulled up the presentation on my laptop and turned the screen toward the delegation. "As you can see here, we've accounted for the unique soil composition in the Osaka Bay area. For the next 15 minutes, I walked them through every single detail. I answered every question they had, demonstrating the meticulous preparation and deep understanding that had always been the hallmark of our partnership. The Japanese team nodded with approval, asked intelligent follow-up questions, and began to discuss implementation timelines among themselves. That's when Marcus finally snapped. "Enough!" He slammed his hand down on the conference table, making everyone in the room jump. "Gentlemen, please excuse us for a moment. Sarah outside." Now, I offered a quiet apology to our guests and followed him out of the room, my heart pounding in my chest, but my head held high. The moment the door clicked shut behind us, he exploded. "You deliberately undermined me in there. Who in the hell do you think you are?" "I'm the person who has kept this account profitable for the last 7 years." "You're nothing!" He was screaming now, his face just inches from mine, spittle flying from his lips. "You're a glorified secretary who thinks she's important, Because she can make a few PowerPoints. I took a deliberate step back, fighting to maintain my composure. Marcus, we need to go back in there and salvage this meeting. The contract signing is scheduled for tomorrow. No, we don't need to do anything. He smiled then, a cruel, ugly twisting of his lips. You're done. You're fired. Effective immediately. The words hit me like a physical blow, but I forced my voice to remain steady. You're firing me in the middle of a client meeting? The day before a $50 million contract is supposed to be signed? I'm firing you for insubordination and gross incompetence. Security will escort you from the building. Clean out your desk and don't even think about contacting any of our clients. They belong to Meridian, not to you. I studied his face, the face of a small man drunk on a taste of borrowed power, and a strange sense of calm settled over me. I hope tomorrow's contract signing goes as planned, Marcus. He let out a sharp, ugly laugh. What contract? Without me, there is no contract. I am Meridian Engineering. I picked up my laptop bag and turned to leave. I guess you'll find out. Dream on, sweetheart. You'll be lucky to get a job as a receptionist after I'm done with you. I walked away, his empty threats echoing down the hall behind me. But with each step I took, my initial shock began to transform into something else entirely. Pure, unadulterated determination. Security was waiting for me at my office. It was two guards I'd known for years, and they both looked genuinely apologetic. I'm sorry, Sarah. One of them, Tom, said quietly. We have to escort you out. It's not your fault, Tom. I quickly gathered my personal belongings, my industry awards, the framed photo of Brian and our daughter, Emma. 10 years of my life reduced to the contents of a single banker's box. As we walked through the main office floor, heads turned and whispers followed us. By the time we reached the parking garage, my phone was already buzzing incessantly. Word travels fast in our industry, but bad news travels at the speed of light. I sat in my car for a long moment, trying to process the seismic shift that had just occurred in my life. Then I called Brian. Hey, beautiful. How did the meeting go? I'm in the parking garage. Marcus fired me. There was a moment of stunned silence on the other end of the line. Then, I'll kill him. No, you won't, but I might need that alibi later. Come home. We'll figure this out, together. But I wasn't ready to go home just yet. First, I had some calls to make. My first call was to Lisa Chen, my main contact at Chen Construction. We had worked together for 8 years, building everything from massive shopping centers to new airport terminals. She answered on the second ring. Sarah, I was just thinking about you. We're in the middle of finalizing our vendor selection for the big Phoenix project. Lisa, I need to tell you something. I'm no longer with Meridian. There was a short pause. What happened? Marcus Rothwell happened. He terminated my employment about 20 minutes ago. That idiot, she said, her voice flat with disgust. Well, his loss is someone else's gain. Who snatched you up already? No one yet. It literally just happened. Stay that way. Don't sign anything with anyone until you and I talk. Chen Construction might have some ideas for you. My phone beeped, signaling another incoming call, then another. By the time I finally pulled into my driveway, I had fielded 17 calls from clients, competitors, and former colleagues. The news was spreading like a wildfire, and in its wake, something else was spreading too: opportunity. Brian was waiting for me at the door with a glass of wine and his arms open wide. I fell into both gratefully. Tell me everything, he said. So I did. I recounted every word, every insult, every single moment of Marcus's spectacular, self-inflicted implosion. Brian listened intently, his jaw tightening with each new detail of the story. "The Yamamoto contract," he said when I had finished. "That's supposed to be signed tomorrow?" It was. "I seriously doubt it'll happen now." "Because you won't be there?" I just shrugged, but we both knew the truth. Mr. Yamamoto valued relationships and honor above all else. Marcus had just publicly and brutally severed the one relationship that mattered most. My phone rang again. It was an unknown international number. I answered cautiously. "Hello? Sarah-san." It was Mr. Yamamoto, his voice carefully neutral. "We have just concluded our meeting with Rothwell-san. He has informed us of your departure. I am very sorry for the disruption to your visit, Yamamoto-san. He informed us that you were terminated for incompetence." I closed my eyes, the sting of the lie still fresh. "I understand that is his position. Sarah-san, in our 7 years of partnership, I have never known you to be anything but exceptionally competent. Perhaps we could meet for tea? There is a matter I wish to discuss with you." My heart leaped into my throat, but I kept my voice calm and professional. "I would be honored, Yamamoto-san. However, I should mention that I have certain legal obligations to my former employer." "Of course. Shall we say the lobby of the Ritz-Carlton in 1 hour? This will not be a business meeting, merely tea between old friends." Old friends. In the world of Japanese business culture, those 2 words meant everything. "I'll be there." Brian drove me to the hotel, squeezing my hand reassuringly at every red light. "Whatever happens," he said, "we're going to be okay. We have savings. We have each other." "We have more than that," I said, thinking of the flood of calls, the emerging opportunities, the strong relationships I had built over a decade of hard work. "We have options." The lobby of the Ritz-Carlton was a picture of elegant subtlety, all soft lighting and hushed, important conversations. Mr. Yamamoto was already there waiting for me, a pot of steaming tea on the table in front of him. He stood as I approached, a simple gesture of respect that a man like Marcus would never have even considered. "Sarah-san, thank you for coming." We sat, and he poured the tea with a practiced, graceful precision. For a few moments, we simply sipped in a comfortable silence, the kind of quiet that is born from years of mutual respect and understanding. "Rothwell-san is an interesting man," he finally said, breaking the silence. "That's one word for it," I replied. A small, knowing smile crossed his weathered face. "After you left the room, he told us many things. He said that you were unstable, that you had been stealing company secrets, that you had behaved inappropriately with clients." My stomach churned. He actually said all of that? He said many things, none of which aligned with our 7 years of direct experience working with you. He paused, studying the tea in his cup. "Tell me, Sarah-san, what are your plans now?" "I'm exploring my options. Several firms have already reached out." "And what if you were to start your own firm?" The question hung in the air between us, charged with possibility. I had been thinking the exact same thing for the past 2 hours, but hearing it spoken aloud by him made it feel suddenly, powerfully real. That would be complicated. There are non-compete agreements, issues of client ownership. Indeed, but consulting arrangements are quite different from direct competition, are they not? His eyes twinkled with intelligence. Yamamoto Industries often requires specialized consultation for our international projects, a level of expertise that transcends any single company. My pulse quickened. "Yamamoto-san, I want to be very clear. I cannot and will not violate my legal agreements with Meridian." "Of course not. We would never ask you to compromise your integrity." That integrity is, after all, the very reason we value our relationship with you. He carefully set down his cup. The contract signing that was scheduled for tomorrow has been postponed. We have serious concerns about Meridian's current leadership and their ability to execute our vision for the Osaka project. I see. However, our projects cannot afford to wait indefinitely. We will require guidance, perhaps from an independent consultant who truly understands our specific requirements, someone we trust. He stood up, offering a slight, respectful bow. Thank you for the tea, Sarah-san. I hope we will have the opportunity to speak again very soon. After he left, I sat alone in the lobby for another hour, my mind racing at 1,000 miles a minute. By the time Brian came to pick me up, I had the rough skeleton of a business plan sketched out in the Notes app on my phone. We're starting a company, I announced as I slid into the passenger seat. He grinned, a wide, proud smile. It's about time. What changed? Everything. Marcus thinks he won today by firing me. He thinks clients are property, that relationships can be owned like assets. I'm going to show him exactly how wrong he is. That night, I barely slept. I spent the hours researching business structures, consulting with a lawyer friend over the phone, and running financial projections on my laptop. By morning, I had a plan. It wasn't a plan for revenge, not exactly. It was a plan for something much better. Success. At 9 a.m., the exact time the Yamamoto contract signing should have been taking place, my phone began to explode with calls. The first one was from Jennifer Walsh, my former director of operations at Meridian. Sarah, it's absolute chaos here. Yamamoto walked. Marcus is screaming at everyone in sight. He's demanding to know if you contacted them. I haven't spoken to any Meridian clients, I said carefully, choosing my words with precision. Right, of course. She lowered her voice to a whisper. He's lost it, Sarah. Completely and totally lost it. He fired 2 more people this morning just for defending you. Who? Michael from engineering and Patricia from accounts. Apparently, questioning his divine leadership is now a fireable offense. My heart sank. Michael and Patricia were good people, solid, dependable employees who had been with Meridian even longer than I had. Are they okay? They're shell-shocked. Michael asked me to get your number for him. Is that okay? Of course. The calls kept coming all morning. Clients called to express their deep concern about my sudden departure. Former colleagues called to share horror stories about Marcus's increasingly erratic and tyrannical behavior. Competitors called, circling like sharks, sensing blood in the water. By noon, I had made a firm decision. I drove to a small business development center downtown and filed the official paperwork for Catalyst Engineering Consultants. It wasn't much yet, just a name and a tax ID number, but it was mine. The next call I received changed everything. It was Lisa Chen, and her voice was electric with excitement. Sarah, I just got out of an emergency board meeting here at Chen. We're officially concerned about the viability of our Phoenix project with Meridian. I understand your concerns, Lisa, but I can't discuss Meridian's business. I'm not asking you to. I'm asking if Catalyst Engineering Consultants would be available for an independent project review. We need someone who understands the technical requirements from the inside out and can ensure our interests are protected. My heart was pounding against my ribs. Lisa, I just filed the paperwork for that company 3 hours ago. Then you better get some business cards printed. We're prepared to offer you a 6-month consulting contract, full rate, starting this Monday. I had to pull my car over to the side of the road, my hands trembling. This was happening. This was really happening. Lisa, thank you. Don't thank me. Thank Marcus Rothwell. His performance this week has been truly illuminating for a lot of people. Several of us in the industry are seriously reconsidering our long-term vendor relationships. The next few days were a blur of frantic activity. I hired a lawyer to meticulously review my non-compete agreement, and we found several careful legal paths through its restrictions. I set up a home office in our spare bedroom, registered for business insurance, and created a simple, professional website. Every small step felt like a monumental declaration of independence. Michael Torres called me on Thursday. "Hey, boss, heard you're hiring." I laughed. "I have exactly one employee, and that's me. And I'm not your boss anymore, Michael. You'll always be my boss. Marcus fired me for suggesting that he might want to actually read one of your project briefs before a major client meeting. I've got 6 other senior engineers ready to jump ship with me. Are you interested?" I can't poach Meridian employees, Michael. It's in my agreement. Who's poaching? We're already gone. The only question is whether we're going to work for your competitors or come to work for someone we actually know and respect. By Friday, I had 4 consulting contracts lined up and a core team of 3 freelance engineers, all of them former Meridian employees who had voluntarily resigned after witnessing Marcus's disastrous management style firsthand. We were David to Meridian's Goliath, but we were nimble, we were motivated, and we were hungry. The real shock came on Friday afternoon. It was an email from Charles Worthington, the chairman of Meridian's board of directors. "Ms. Hartley, I would appreciate the opportunity for a confidential discussion regarding recent events. Are you available this weekend?" I called Brian immediately. "The board wants to talk to me." "Damage control. Marcus must be in a full-scale meltdown." "What do I do?" "You listen. You don't commit to anything. And you remember, they're the ones who threw you away. Whatever they're offering you now, it's only because they're desperate." The meeting was set for Saturday morning at Charles's exclusive country club, Neutral Ground. I dressed carefully for it, aiming for a look that was professional but not desperate, successful but not ostentatious. It was the armor of a woman who knew her own worth. Charles looked haggard, the kind of deep-bone exhaustion that comes from watching an empire you helped build begin to crumble. He didn't waste any time on pleasantries. "We've lost 4 major contracts this week: Yamamoto, Chen Construction, Apex Development, and Hartfield Industries. All of them cited concerns about leadership and project continuity." I sipped my coffee and waited for him to continue. "Marcus says you're behind it all, that you're violating your non-compete, that you're stealing clients." My lawyer would disagree. I haven't initiated contact with a single Meridian client. I have simply responded to requests for consultation on new projects. He rubbed his temples, a gesture of profound weariness. "Sarah, we made a mistake. The board made a mistake in hiring Marcus. We see that now. And we want you back. Name your terms. Salary, position, stock options, whatever it takes." I set my coffee cup down carefully on its saucer. "You want me to come back and clean up Marcus's mess. You want me to work under the man who publicly humiliated me, who called me incompetent and worse in front of my entire industry. He wouldn't be your superior. The board is reconsidering his position." Reconsidering. I almost laughed out loud. "Charles, do you know what Marcus said to me when he fired me? He said the clients belonged to Meridian, not to me. He was wrong. Clients don't belong to anyone. They choose to work with people based on trust, competence, and respect. Marcus destroyed all 3 of those things in a single week. We can rebuild. No, Meridian can rebuild. But it will be without me. I have my own company now, a team that trusts me, and clients who value what we offer. I will not abandon them to save the company that discarded me without a second thought. His shoulders sagged in defeat. Is there anything I can say to change your mind? I thought about it for a moment. I thought about the 10 years I had given to Meridian, the relationships I had built, the success we had shared. Then I thought about the past week, the humiliation, yes, but also the incredible feeling of liberation, the chance to build something better from the ground up. Tell the board to promote from within. There are good people at Meridian, people who understand that engineering isn't just about numbers and contracts. It's about relationships and trust. You should listen to them. That's it? That's your advice? That's my gift to you. Despite everything that's happened, I don't want to see Meridian fail. Too many good people depend on it. But Charles, the next time you hire a CEO, maybe you should check their references beyond their golf handicap. I left him sitting there, staring into his now cold cup of coffee. In the parking lot, my phone buzzed with a text message from Mr. Yamamoto. Catalyst Engineering Consultants has been officially approved as our primary consulting firm for the Osaka project. Congratulations, Sarah-san. I sat in my car and I cried, not tears of sadness or anger, but tears of pure, overwhelming relief. I had done it. I had taken the absolute worst moment of my professional life and transformed it into the beginning of something truly extraordinary. Monday morning arrived with a brand new routine. Instead of fighting rush hour traffic to get to Meridian's gleaming glass towers, I walked downstairs to my home office. My team dialed in for our first meeting virtually. Michael from his kitchen table, Patricia from her spare bedroom, and David from a local co-working space. We were scattered geographically, but we were united by a shared purpose and a deep sense of mutual respect. Our first team meeting was everything that meetings at Meridian were not. There was no posturing, no hidden political agendas, just a group of dedicated professionals solving problems together. When Patricia suggested an innovative new approach to the Osaka Foundation issue, we all listened intently. When David raised concerns about the feasibility of a timeline, we adjusted it collaboratively. When Michael cracked a joke about Marcus's questionable hairpiece, we all laughed. "This is how it should be," Patricia said with a sigh of relief. "Just people doing good work." The weeks flew by in a whirlwind of productive activity. More clients reached out, some of them fleeing the chaos and toxicity at Meridian, others simply intrigued by our growing reputation as a boutique firm that delivered exceptional results. We were selective, taking on only those projects where we knew we could truly add value. Our reputation grew, not through aggressive marketing campaigns, but through the simple, powerful currency of delivered results. Marcus, meanwhile, was drowning. The business press had picked up on the story of Meridian's mass exodus of talent and clients, framing it as a cautionary tale about the dangers of toxic leadership. His posts on LinkedIn became increasingly desperate, shifting from his usual chest-thumping bravado to vague, meaningless corporate platitudes about transformation and strategic realignment. He called me once about 6 weeks after the firing. I almost didn't answer, but in the end, my curiosity won out. "Sarah." His voice had lost its sharp, arrogant edge, replaced by a tone that was almost plaintive. "We need to talk. We're talking. This has gone too far. You've made your point. You've hurt the company enough." "I haven't hurt anyone, Marcus. I've simply continued my career. If Meridian is struggling, perhaps you should look in the mirror for the cause." "You poisoned them against me. Yamamoto, Chen, all of them. They were fine until you interfered." I took a deep breath, choosing my words with care. "Marcus, do you know why Mr. Yamamoto chose to work with me all those years? It wasn't because I bought him expensive dinners or took him golfing. It was because for 7 straight years, I delivered on every single promise I made. I answered every call. I solved every problem. That's not poison, Marcus. That's professional integrity. You think you're so noble, but you're just another opportunist, capitalizing on a situation. You're right about one thing. I am capitalizing on a situation. The situation that you created when you decided that relationships were commodities and that people were expendable. You know, when you find yourself in a hole, Marcus, the first rule is to stop digging. The board is watching every move I make. Our revenue is down 40%. They're calling for my head. Then give it to them. Step down. Let someone competent clean up the mess you made. Is that what it would take? For you to come back? If I left? The question stunned me into silence for a moment. Was he really so delusional that he thought this was all some elaborate scheme for me to take his job? Marcus, I don't want to come back. I don't want your job. I have my own company, my own clients, and my own future. This isn't about revenge. It's about moving forward. Everyone wants revenge. Everyone wants to see me fail. You're failing all on your own. I'm just too busy succeeding to watch. I hung up the phone before he could respond. Later that day, Patricia told me that he had called her too, alternating between making vague threats and offering clumsy bribes. Michael reported receiving similar calls. We compared notes and laughed about it, but there was a current of sadness underneath it all. Marcus had been given everything: position, power, and vast resources, and he had squandered it all through his own sheer, unadulterated arrogance. 2 months after my firing, the news finally broke. Marcus Rothwell was officially stepping down as CEO of Meridian Engineering Solutions to pursue other opportunities. The business press had a field day with it, but I felt no real sense of satisfaction or victory. His destruction had been entirely self-inflicted. The board named Susan Chen as the interim CEO. I had worked with Susan for 5 years before Marcus arrived on the scene. She was competent, she was ethical, and she actually understood the principles of engineering. When she called me, I answered, "Sarah, I know this bridge is probably burned to the ground, but I have to ask, would you ever consider coming back? Not as an employee, but as a strategic partner? Meridian needs to be rebuilt from the studs, and we need people who understand our original culture." I thought about it. I really thought about it. The offer was tempting. The vast resources of a major firm, the chance to help rebuild something I had once helped create. But then I looked around my home office, at the new awards from satisfied clients lining the shelves, at our team chat, which was full of bad jokes and brilliant ideas, at the balance sheet on my screen, showing healthy profits and sustainable, steady growth. Susan, I truly appreciate the offer, but Catalyst and Meridian are competitors now. Friendly competitors, I hope, but competitors nonetheless. I wish you nothing but the best in the rebuilding process. I understand. For what it's worth, the board knows they screwed up royally. Marcus sold them a vision of aggressive, cutthroat growth, and they bought it without ever considering the true cost. The cost was higher than they knew, but maybe that's how large organizations learn. Speaking of learning, she said, her tone lightening, we're implementing a whole slate of new policies on leadership development and cultural preservation. Your name comes up a lot in those meetings as an example of what we lost and why we can never afford to lose it again. That's flattering, but you have plenty of talent still there. Trust them, listen to them, and don't ever let another Marcus happen. We ended the call on good terms. A week later, Meridian announced a strategic partnership with Catalyst on 2 major projects: where our specialized expertise complemented their larger resources. We negotiated the terms as equals, setting up a deal that benefited both companies. It was professional, it was respectful, and it was profitable. Everything that working with Marcus had never been. The 1-year anniversary of my firing arrived with very little fanfare. I was too busy to even mark the occasion, deep in negotiations for our biggest contract yet. But that evening, my team surprised me at my house with champagne and a cake decorated with the words, "Best worst day ever." To the woman who turned a pink slip into a golden opportunity, Michael toasted, raising his glass. To the boss who actually treats us like human beings, Patricia added. To proving that nice guys and gals don't always finish last, David chimed in with a grin. We clinked our glasses together in my living room, which had also become our de facto conference space. This unconventional little office had become the heart of something truly special. In just 1 year, we had gone from nothing to a thriving firm with 12 full-time employees, 6 major clients, and a reputation for excellence that no amount of marketing could ever buy. Brian joined us, a proud smile never leaving his face. Remember that first night? You came home completely destroyed. Now look at you. I wasn't destroyed, I corrected him. I was just recalibrating. Is that what we're calling it? He leaned in and kissed my forehead. Whatever it was, I'm glad it happened. You are happier now than you were in 10 years at Meridian. He was right. The constant political games, the growing frustration with corporate bureaucracy, the slow, creeping erosion of my passion for the work. Marcus had actually done me a favor by forcing me out. I had become too comfortable, too afraid to take the leap and bet on myself. Emma, my 16-year-old daughter who had watched this entire journey unfold from the sidelines, arrived at our small celebration. She raised her glass of sparkling cider with mock solemnity. To my mom, who showed me that when someone slams a door in your face, you don't waste time knocking. You go out and build your own door. The room erupted in laughter and agreement, but Emma wasn't finished. And to Marcus Rothwell, wherever he is, thank you for being such a colossal jerk that you accidentally created a business empire. There was more laughter, but I raised my hand for quiet. Actually, let's not toast Marcus. This isn't his story. It's ours, to taking control of our own destinies. That got the biggest cheer of the night. Later, after everyone had gone home and Brian was loading the dishwasher, I stepped out onto our back deck. The city lights sparkled below me, a vast landscape full of possibility and promise. My phone buzzed with an email from a potential new client in Singapore who was interested in our expertise for a major public infrastructure project. I thought about responding immediately, but then I decided it could wait until morning. True success meant being able to set my own boundaries, to choose when and how to engage with my work. Marcus had never understood that. He had thought power meant being always on, always aggressive, always taking. But I was learning that real power was in knowing when to push and when to pause, when to fight and when to forgive. "Sarah?" Brian called from inside. "You okay out there?" "Never better," I called back, and I meant it with every fiber of my being. The truth was, I had forgiven Marcus months ago, not because he deserved it, but because holding on to that anger was like carrying his poison around in my own veins. He had taken enough from me. I refused to give him my peace of mind as well. The latest news I'd heard through the industry grapevine was that he had started his own consulting firm, a pathetic attempt to replicate what I had built. It wasn't going well. It turns out that burning all of your bridges makes it very difficult to cross rivers, and Marcus had torched every bridge he had ever stood on. But I took no pleasure in hearing about his struggles. My success was never about watching him fail. It was about building something meaningful regardless of what he or anyone else did. My phone rang. It was Mr. Yamamoto, calling from Tokyo, where it was already the next day. "Sarah-san, I hope I am not disturbing your evening." "Never, Yamamoto-san. How can I help you?" "I wanted to share some good news. The Osaka project has been officially approved for a major expansion. We will need Catalyst's expertise for the next phase." "That's wonderful news. We are honored by your continued trust in us." "Trust," he repeated, his voice thoughtful. "Such a simple word, but it is so difficult to earn and so very easy to lose. Rothwell-san taught us all that lesson well." "Every experience teaches us something," I said diplomatically. "Indeed. Sarah-san, may I share something personal with you?" "Of course." "When you were terminated, my team was very concerned, not just about the project, but about you personally. In our culture, the way a company treats its people reveals its true character. Meridian showed us their character that day." I swallowed past the sudden lump that had formed in my throat. "Thank you, Yamamoto-san. That means more to me than you know. You showed your character as well. Grace under extreme pressure, dignity in the most difficult of circumstances. These are the qualities we value most in our partners." He paused for a moment. "Rothwell-san contacted me last week, offering his services." "Oh?" My stomach tightened. I declined his offer. Some bridges, once they are burned, cannot be rebuilt. Some trust, once it is broken, cannot be repaired. But new bridges can always be built by those who understand their true value. After we hung up, I remained on the deck for a long time, processing his words. In the end, that was what this whole journey had been about: understanding value. Marcus had valued all the wrong things: power over people, authority over ability, his own ego over excellence. He had thought my value was in my obedience, in my silence, in my willingness to shrink myself to make more room for his massive ego. But my real value had always been in the relationships I built, the problems I solved, and the trust I earned. When he had tried to erase that value with a pink slip and a security escort, he had only succeeded in freeing me to multiply it. 2 years after that fateful firing, Catalyst Engineering Consultants had offices in 3 cities and strategic partnerships around the globe. We had managed to keep our culture intact, despite the rapid growth, maintaining the atmosphere of respect and collaboration that had defined us from the very first day. Every new hire went through an orientation process, not with HR, but with the original team, where they learned our story and came to understand our core values. Marcus's company had folded after 18 months. I heard he had moved to another state and taken a position with a firm that didn't know his history. Maybe he had learned something from his failure. Maybe he hadn't. It didn't matter to me anymore. What did matter was the email I had received that morning from a young female engineer at a major corporation. "Ms. Hartley, I'm facing a situation at my job that is very similar to what you experienced. My boss takes credit for all of my work and treats me like I'm disposable. But reading about your journey has given me hope. Would you be willing to talk?" I scheduled the call immediately, because I was learning that success wasn't just about building your own empire. It was about lighting the path for others who were walking down similar dark roads. During our conversation, I told her what I wished someone had told me back then. Your value doesn't diminish just because someone else fails to see it. Their blindness is not your burden to carry. Document everything, build your network, and always remember that the best revenge isn't destroying those who wronged you. It's building something so magnificent that their opinion of you becomes completely irrelevant. She thanked me with tears in her voice, and I remembered my own tears in that lonely parking garage 3 years ago. How far we had all come. That evening, there was a company gathering to celebrate landing our biggest contract to date, a partnership with the Japanese government to design earthquake-resistant infrastructure. It was the same technology I had originally developed for Yamamoto Industries, now being implemented on a national scale. As I stood before my team, a group of 50 talented professionals who had all chosen to build something meaningful together, I thought about Marcus's arrogant words that day. "I am Meridian Engineering." He had been so certain that institutions were more powerful than individuals, that positions mattered more than people. But here we stood, the living proof that he had been catastrophically wrong. We weren't just catalyst engineering. We were the sum of every relationship we had nurtured, every promise we had kept, every problem we had solved with integrity and innovation. We were proof that when you treat people as expendable, you might just discover that you're the one who is truly replaceable. "Ladies and gentlemen," I began my speech, 3 years ago, I was told that I was nothing, that my 10 years of hard work could be erased with 2 simple words: "You're fired." That the relationships I had built belonged to someone else, that my value was determined by a man who couldn't even be bothered to pronounce our clients' names correctly. A ripple of knowing laughter went through the room. Everyone knew the story by now. It had become a part of our company legend, a story told to every new hire as both a cautionary tale and a source of inspiration. But what I learned that day wasn't about revenge or vindication, it was about recognition, recognizing our own worth independent of any job titles or companies, recognizing that relationships are earned, not owned, and recognizing that the best response to being undervalued isn't anger, it's action. I raised my glass, looking at each and every face in the room. Some of them had been with me from the very beginning. Others had joined us along the way, but all of them had chosen to be part of something built on a foundation of respect and excellence. So tonight, we don't toast our success in spite of that termination. We toast it because of it. Because sometimes the worst thing that happens to you becomes the best thing that happens for you. Sometimes being pushed off a cliff is what teaches you that you had wings all along. The cheer that went up could probably be heard 3 blocks away. As I sipped my champagne and accepted congratulations from my team, my phone buzzed with a LinkedIn notification. Marcus Rothwell had viewed my profile. Again. He did that sometimes, usually late at night, probably sitting alone and wondering how everything had gone so wrong for him and so right for me. I felt a brief moment of something. Not pity exactly, but a sad recognition of waste. He had been given everything he needed for success, except for the wisdom to value it. He had held gold in his hands and thrown it away because he couldn't see past the glitter. But that was his journey, not mine. Mine was here, in this room full of people who had chosen to build rather than tear down, to elevate rather than diminish, to prove that success wasn't a zero-sum game. Brian appeared at my elbow, looking handsome in his suit, that proud smile lighting up his entire face. "Ready to go home, CEO. In a minute." I wanted to savor this moment just a little longer, to burn it into my memory, to remember how far we had come from that devastating day in the Meridian parking garage. "No regrets?" he asked, reading my mood as he always could. I thought about it, really considered the question. The pain of that public humiliation, the fear of those first uncertain weeks, the sheer exhaustion of building something from nothing. Would I change any of it if I could? "No regrets," I said finally. "How can I regret the very thing that set me free?" As we were preparing to leave, Mr. Yamamoto approached me, as dignified as ever, despite the late hour and the flowing champagne. Sarah-san, a moment? Of course. I wanted to tell you something I have never shared with anyone. That day, when Rothwell-san announced your termination, do you know what he said after you left the room? I shook my head, not entirely sure I wanted to know. He said that you would be forgotten within a week, that no one would even remember your name within a month. He paced the room, pointing at your empty chair, and declared himself the future of the company. Mr. Yamamoto's weathered face creased into a slight smile. I knew then that he was a fool. Some people leave marks that are too deep to be erased. You were such a person. Thank you, Yamamoto-san. Your faith in me, it saved me. No, Sarah-san, your faith in yourself saved you. We merely recognized what was already there. He bowed slightly. And now, the entire industry recognizes it as well. As Brian and I drove home through the glittering city lights, I thought about that moment of recognition. Marcus had been right about one thing. I had been replaced at Meridian within a week. But what he had failed to understand was that I was irreplaceable to the people who truly mattered, the clients who valued integrity, the colleagues who craved respectful leadership, and most importantly, to myself. The woman who had sat in that parking garage, stunned and humiliated, had thought her career was over. She could not possibly have imagined that 3 years later, she would be running a company that competed with, and often beat, her former employer. She couldn't have known that her worst professional moment would become the catalyst for her greatest triumph. But maybe that's how it always works. Maybe we need to be broken down to realize how strong we really are. Maybe we need to lose everything to discover that we already possess everything we truly need. As we pulled into our driveway, my phone buzzed one last time. It was an email from Charles Worthington, who was still the chairman of Meridian's board. Sarah, congratulations on the government contract. You have built something truly remarkable. The board has authorized me to make you an offer. We want to acquire Catalyst. Name your price. We need what you have created. I showed the email to Brian, who let out a low whistle. They want to buy you back. No, I corrected him, reading the email again. They want to buy what I built without them. There's a difference. So, will you consider it? I thought about my team, about the unique culture we had created, about the clients who had followed me into the unknown. I thought about what would happen to all of that under Meridian's corporate structure, even with Susan Chen's improved leadership. Then I typed my response. Charles, thank you for the generous offer, but Catalyst is not for sale. We are happy to continue partnering on projects where it makes sense for both of us. But some things can't be bought. They have to be earned. I hit send before I could second-guess myself. Brian laughed. How much do you think they were offering? It doesn't matter. What we have is priceless. That's my girl, he said, pulling me close. The one who knows her worth. Inside, I poured 2 glasses of the good scotch, the one we saved for truly special occasions. This felt like one, not because of the government contract or the acquisition offer, but because I had finally fully understood something. Marcus had done me the greatest favor of my life by showing me his true character that day, not because his cruelty had made me stronger, but because it had forced me to stop accepting anything less than I deserved. He had meant to diminish me, but instead, he had revealed my true dimensions. To Marcus Rothwell, I said, raising my glass with a wry smile. May he someday find what he's looking for. Brian clinked his glass against mine. And what's that? Whatever it is that makes small men feel big. Power, probably, or control. And what makes big people feel fulfilled? I thought about my team, my clients, and the work we did that mattered. Purpose, connection, the knowledge that you've built something good. Then you've won. It was never a competition. That's what Marcus never understood. Business isn't war, it's building, and the best builders focus on their own blueprints, not on tearing down the foundations of others. Later, as I lay in bed replaying the day's events, I realized something else. The old saying, "The best revenge is living well," was only partially true. The best revenge isn't just succeeding, it's succeeding so completely that the idea of revenge becomes irrelevant. It's building a life so full and meaningful that there's simply no room left for bitterness. It's becoming so focused on where you're going that you forget to even look back at the people who tried to stop you. Marcus Rothwell had fired me on a Tuesday afternoon in front of clients with cruel words and even crueler laughter. He had thought he was ending my story. Instead, he had handed me the pen and told me to write my own. And what a story it had become. Not a tale of revenge or vindication, but one of transformation. Of a woman who discovered that being thrown away by those who didn't value her was just the universe's way of saying that she was meant for something better. 3 years later, I stood at the helm of a company built on everything Marcus had mocked: relationships, trust, and mutual respect. Every contract we won, every client who chose us over Meridian, every talented professional who joined our team was living proof that his philosophy of business was as bankrupt as his leadership had been. But the real victory wasn't in what I had built. It was in who I had become. The woman who had once needed corporate validation was gone, replaced by someone who knew her own worth, independent of any title or company. The woman who had accepted disrespect as the price of success had learned that respect was non-negotiable. The woman who had been told she was nothing had discovered that she was everything, the architect of her own destiny, the builder of her own empire, the author of her own story. And that story was far from over. With each new day came new challenges, new opportunities, and new chances to prove that the best response to being undervalued isn't revenge, but revelation, revealing your true worth through your actions, your excellence, and your integrity. So when young professionals reach out to me now, facing their own Marcus Rothwells, I tell them what I learned. Don't waste your energy on revenge. Invest it in your own resurrection. Build something so magnificent that those who dismissed you become nothing more than footnotes in your success story. And remember, the sweetest revenge isn't served cold. It's not served at all. It's lived fully and authentically in a life that proves your worth was never theirs to determine in the first place. The sun rises on a new day, and with it, new possibilities. In my office, not a corner suite in someone else's tower, but a space that I earned and created myself, I begin another day of building. Not because I have something to prove to Marcus or to anyone else, but because building is what I do. It's who I am. It's who I was always meant to be. And that, more than any revenge, is the ultimate triumph. To become so fully yourself that the opinions of others become nothing more than background noise. To build something so meaningful that past hurts become the stepping stones to your future. To succeed so completely that the only thing you feel for those who wronged you is a quiet sense of gratitude for showing you, through their own failures, exactly who you never wanted to be. The best revenge? It's not a dish served cold. It's a life lived well, a purpose fulfilled, a potential realized. It's the quiet satisfaction of knowing that while someone tried to end your story, they only gave you a much better beginning. And what a beginning it has been. End of story.